My name is Dr. Kenneth Christie. I'm the Director of the School of Humanitarian Studies at Royal Roads University, and I am the Acting President of the Confederation of University Faculty Associations of British Columbia, or CUFA BC. CUFA BC is the provincial voice for more than 5,500 university professors, instructors, lecturers, and academic librarians at the 5 research universities across the province: Royal Roads University, Simon Fraser University, the University of British Columbia, the University of Northern British Columbia, and the University of Victoria. I would like to acknowledge that the land on which CUFA BC's office resides is on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, the Musqueam, and the Stolo nations. We offer our respect to their diverse histories, cultures, and enduring connections to this land. Today, we are proud to celebrate the recipients of the 2026 CUFA BC Distinguished Academics Awards. These awards recognize outstanding scholarship that extends beyond the academy, work that meaningfully contributes to our communities and public life. Across British Columbia, faculty are advancing knowledge in ways that shape policy, drive innovation, and deepen our understanding of the world. While much of this work happens outside the spotlight, its impact is profound and far-reaching. These awards provide an important opportunity to recognize that contribution. It's my pleasure to present the 2026 CUFA BC CUFA Boyanowsky Academic of the Year Award to Dr. Tammara Soma. This award recognizes a recent outstanding scholarly contribution to the broader community. This recognition reflects the respect and admiration of colleagues across institutions, disciplines, and communities. Dr. Soma joins us to talk about her research.
My name is Tammara Soma. I am an associate professor at the School of Resource and Environmental Management in the planning program at Simon Fraser University.
Maybe you could tell us about your research interests.
My research interest spans the entire food system, from waterways and the forests and farmers, all the way to the retail store, to your table, to the dump site, to the compost bin, and beyond. My research also covers the different people that work within the food system, whether it be migrant farm workers, farmers, and food servers. And at the end of the day, we are interested in a sustainable and just food system for all.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Now, your nominators describe your work as advancing food sovereignty and social justice across food, health, economic, and environmental systems. Tell me about your project, Countering Collective Forgetting, the role of land-based learning for climate resiliency and intergenerational food literacy.
The essence of the project, Countering Collective Forgetting, and the role of land-based learning, is to remember and to center the voices of Indigenous elders and knowledge keepers and land-based educators, community food practitioners, and the amazing work that they do in terms of designing climate-resilient food systems and supporting intergenerational food literacy for 7 generations to come. I think it's so important, especially to understand and revive some of these suppressed or forgotten teachings, ways of knowings, and practices, because we are increasingly facing more economic and political and environmental volatility. And in doing so, by reviving these teachings and these practices and celebrating their voices, we can not only survive, but also thrive together.
Now, your nominators describe your commitment to knowledge mobilization as exceptional. Tell me more about your approach to knowledge mobilization and the land-based learning circle in the Sunshine Coast, and where do you see this project going next?
I am deeply passionate about knowledge mobilization, and what I like to do is I usually integrate art-based knowledge mobilization, such as photography, film, videos, and also creative approaches to knowledge mobilization, because I think it's important that our work is accessible for the public. Recently, for example, I actually co-directed a CBC Gem documentary called Food is My Teacher, and because of that, for this particular land-based learning project, we are going to do community-based and community-led knowledge mobilization, including community legacy photo books, storybooks, resources, all types of accessible resources for the public, so that we can truly celebrate the work of the many food practitioners that are supporting land-based learning in BC and also Canada across the world.
Well, thank you. You co-authored the groundbreaking report on equitably transformative resilience with the United Nations high-level panel of experts on food security and nutrition. How was your experience with this work, and is there a moment that makes you most proud?
Yeah, it was such an honor and a privilege to be able to be selected to develop that report and co-author it with 10 amazing scholars from around the world. I was working with legal scholars, sociologists, geographers, agroecologists, economists, you name it. And then there's me, the food system planner. And we worked together. We listened to hundreds of submissions from stakeholders, civil society organizations, scholars, and we scoured through hundreds and hundreds of literature and scholarly articles to find pathways towards resilience. And at the end of it, and at the core of the work that we did, was to recognize the importance of equitably transformative resilience. The idea is that in a crisis, we shouldn't just bounce back to the status quo, but we need to create transformation that is equitable to all.
Now, a major part of your work on food systems resiliency entails co-developing community-based research projects, in particular a focus on land-based education and connection to the land. Why is it important for you to engage in this community-based research?
Community-based research is critical, especially when it comes to land-based learning and land-based education. And in my work, actually, we're doing this research not only in Canada, but also in Tanzania. So our work spans, is international. And the reason for this is because we are interested in place-based knowledge, in traditional ecological knowledge. And a lot of these knowledges, practices, and teachings have been cultivated for millennia by community in their localities. And so it makes complete sense to not only conduct community-based research, but also to do so in a co-created, co-developing, co-led way with community. And so this means designing the research together, coming up with solutions together, identifying barriers together, and therefore making an equitable research.
So in thinking about your career today, how does your work support equity, diversity, and inclusion in food access? What about access in post-secondary education?
Equity, diversity, and inclusion is so critical, especially in food security research. Right now, 1 in 4 Canadians are food insecure, and we know that food insecurity disproportionately impacts Indigenous and racialized communities, and this is why EDI matters. Recently, we completed a project, a citizen science photo voice food asset project, which uncovered hidden food assets in Vancouver and in other places across BC, whereby we highlighted cultural food assets that are important for communities' cultural identity and belonging, where we highlighted food assets that are important for Indigenous food sovereignty and food assets that supported dignified access to food, which is, food access that is not stigmatizing. And so that work is so important, especially because food is something that connects us all, that impacts us all, and it would not be worth researching if it didn't mean contributing to better access for communities.
How has your research contributed to the issue of food insecurity, including for post-secondary students and equity-seeking communities?
Mm-hmm. I have done a lot of research, especially on issues around food access, mobility, school food program, and so that spans everything from K to 12, but also I've worked in the post-secondary sector to raise awareness about food insecurity and also addressing the food waste issue, which is a problem. But I think first and foremost, the living cost is extremely high, especially in British Columbia, and a survey of Canadians highlighted that 60% of Canadians are actually skipping meals or reducing their portion sizes. 53% of the Canadians surveyed are actually using buy now, pay later or credit to access food. And so post-secondary students are especially vulnerable. And this is why it's important to look beyond the food charity or the food bank solutions. We can't just depend on food banks to meet the needs of Canadians, but also vulnerable population. And therefore, we need to look at systemic solutions, systemic interventions in ways so that post-secondary students can go to school with their bellies full and study well and not have to worry about where they're going to get their next meal. The two-tiered food system is basically a food system whereby some of us with income, with enough income, can choose where we buy our food. Maybe we actually have a backyard so we can grow our own food. The second tier is where people basically have to rely on food banks to access food or soup kitchens. And so therefore they have very little choices. Sometimes they would only get access to food banks once a month, and that's not enough food. And so therefore a lot of the work that I do is trying to push a right to food approach, which is a human rights-based approach to food, which means that we are going to challenge this idea that Canadians should constantly rely on charities and food banks to get their next meal.
Okay. How does your work advance the calls to action in the 2015 Truth and Reconciliation Commission report?
Core to the work that we do at the Food Systems Lab is centering the teaching that food is medicine, but also centering Indigenous voices and supporting and promoting Indigenous food sovereignty. So we have been very privileged to work with many Indigenous partners, not just in BC, but also in Canada and across the world. And the idea is that, because colonization has been such a force of the weaponization of food in Canada and globally, but also because of the legacy of Indigenous residential schools and how they've ruptured intergenerational food literacy, it is important to find a different pathway where food is healing for body and soul. And we do this together with our many Indigenous partners.
Now, we focus mainly on your research, but you're also a teacher and a mentor. In your teaching, what is the most important message you want your students to take away from their studies with you?
I love teaching and I love mentoring. I actually mentor once a month with students, not just at SFU. And I think at the end of the day, when it comes to teaching my students, first I lead with love. And it's about planting the seeds of transformation. I truly want them to succeed. And whether or not they take a career in food system planning or whatever career choice that they have, my hope is that they will use their knowledge and their expertise to mobilize peace and justice. And of course, on the side, make sure that the everyday food practices that they do is based on healing and the teaching that food is medicine.
Thank you. Now, final question, is there anything you would wish to say to nominators or the CUFA BC selection committee?
I'm deeply, deeply grateful and humbled by the nominators, especially by Cassandra, our partner, community partner from One Straw Society and a partner with our land-based learning project. Also with Dr. Evan Fraser, who has been such a wonderful mentor for me. CUFA BC has been amazing for not only providing this opportunity, but for the work that you do in supporting faculty and the post-secondary education sector. In particular, I do not envy the work of the CUFA Award Selection Committee. I saw on the website all of the nominees and I felt so amazed at the many amazing accomplishments and their successes. And so I'm amidst so many amazing heroes in BC and I'm deeply grateful for that. So thank you, CUFA BC.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today to talk about your work. I want to congratulate you again on being awarded the 2026 CUFA BC Boyanowsky Academic of the Year Award as part of our Distinguished Academics Award series. I look forward to your continued successes at Simon Fraser University.
Thank you.